These might quite possibly be the ugliest thing I have ever made. So ugly that they're actually kind of cute. Oh no. Hello friends, welcome back. It is so good to see all of you. I am so glad that y'all are here. So I have a fun story. We're gonna go back in time to about 36 hours ago when I started working on our project for this week. It's an interesting project. I think y'all are going to enjoy this. If anything, we're going to get some really good laughs out of it because a little secret, little hint of what's to come. It's not my best. It didn't turn out exactly the way I had hoped it would turn out. However, I encourage y'all to stick with me, watch through to the end, because if anything, it's going to give us all a lot of good laughs together. We're going to create a fun memory, and it might even inspire you and still give you a really good idea on how you can create your own and put your own spin to this. So without further ado, let's jump into this week's project. Step one for this project is to first create a blueprint. So whenever I come up with an idea for a project or a home decor piece, it always starts with inspiration. I get inspired by pieces I've seen elsewhere, but then I always like to put my own twist to them. So the first thing I do is sketch up my plans, sketch out the idea for what I want to accomplish. So that's what we're going to do first. Step one, create some blueprints.
My idea for this design is to create some really cute birdhouses with a twist. I want to create these in 3 different sizes that will be cute birdhouses, but also act as some darling little vases for greenery stems. So I started out by just doing some serious scribbling, reworked my idea to come up with this plan, and now we can execute it.
Now that our designs have been sketched up, it's time for me to decide what materials I want to use to create this and to make our blueprints come to life. So for this one, I decided to go ahead and use some wood and drywall mud because I want to create our little birdhouses to look like they're stucco. Like I kind of want to see if I can achieve that stucco look. So step 2 was gathering up all of our supplies, deciding how we were going to make these, and now we get to jump into step 3, which is assembly.
So the first thing I had to do was cut out all of the pieces and parts for our cute little birdhouse vases. So I used my X-Tool M1 laser cutter to cut all these out because I really did want to get a very precise cut so all the pieces fit perfectly together. And we love our laser cutter. If you're interested in the one we use, I will have it linked in the description box for y'all. So now to start assembly, I'm going to attach all of these together using some wood glue first. So I start with my first piece. I'm attaching a side piece to the back piece, and then to hold this really well together so that I can come in with some finish nails, I'm going to tape it. So I tape it together. It kind of helps give that glue a good hold and gives me free hands so that I can nail it, because if I don't use the tape, then the pieces are just going to fall and it's going to be a disaster. So the tape is a really good little hack here. Once I felt comfortable that everything was really well lined up, I'll come in and just place my first finish nail. And yeah, so see, this is why you use tape, because even with the tape, things kind of want to move and shift. So, okay, now everything is well lined up. We can come in, attach this with a finish nail. So I will do this all the way down. I think I ended up adding like 4 or 5 after all was said and done. So I add a few, take the tape off, and add a few more. The nail gun that I am using here is a Ryobi, and I will also have this linked in the description box for y'all. I love this nailer, number one, because it runs on a battery, so I don't have to deal with cords. It's just so easy and it can go anywhere. So now I've got two pieces hooked together. I'm going to add the third, and this time I didn't have to use the tape because I've already created like a base that I can use to stabilize this piece. I kind of just held on to it. It did work, but I did get a little tiny bit of shifting with this one, and you can see I'm fiddling with it. I got some shifting, so I had to pull it apart. So maybe the tape is just the best way to go here. So again, I'm just going to attach this with 4 or 5 nails, and then we will attach the final piece to the bottom part of our birdhouse, and then I come in and attach the roof in exactly the same way, always using wood glue on all of the pieces and the parts to make sure that I get really strong hold, because the nails work really, really well, but the glue just ensures that we're going to get that extra secure hold. If you don't have access to a laser cutter or a scroll saw or a way to cut all of these pieces and parts out yourself, you can actually use pre-cut pieces. I've seen them at Dollar Tree. I've seen them at Hobby Lobby. They have like build your own birdhouse kits, and you could do this exact same process with the build your own. It would work just as well, and it's super convenient if you don't have a way to cut out your own pieces.
Okay, so we got the birdhouses all assembled. Now I need to jump into step 4, which is going to be applying some stucco to our birdhouses. And I am just going to be using drywall mud to do this. I think this is going to give these birdhouses a really cool looking effect. At least I hope. So fingers crossed, step 4 turns out all right.
For our faux stucco, I am using a drywall mud and a simple paintbrush. So I just started globbing this on. I really wasn't sure what I was doing at this point. I was sort of just experimenting and quickly discovered that this actually works perfect for applying this drywall mud. I'm using pre-mixed. I love this brand. I'll have it linked in the description box for y'all. I love it because the consistency is absolutely perfect, and you don't have to deal with all the mixing and you know, trying to get everything mixed perfectly. Okay, so like I said, this brush was working perfect to apply the drywall mud to our little birdhouses, and my goal here was to create somewhat of a stucco effect, or that was my original plan anyway. But as I started applying it, I kind of liked just using the brush to create like wood grain almost, because if you just brush it like in a normal brushing motion, it created like this really cool pattern that looked very similar to wood grain, although it was a little bit more raised and had a lot of texture. So that's how I ended up applying this to the birdhouses. It was such an easy process, and I actually enjoyed this part because it was really rather relaxing and super satisfying to see texture just start to appear on the birdhouses as I was applying. I did make sure to cover every single nook and cranny with the drywall mud just to make sure that I got a really even application. If you did want to create that really cool stucco effect to your birdhouses, I recommend not brushing it on like I ended up doing. Instead, smear some on and then kind of use your brush to dab it and blob it to get that really authentic looking stucco effect. Also, another thing to keep in mind is I am spreading this on fairly thick because I do want it to have that stucco or mud looking effect to our little houses. I don't really want any of that wood showing through. I'm doing my very best to cover up all that wood and just get a really good, nice, thick coat, but an even coat across the entire birdhouse.
Okay, so far, so good. I let the drywall mud completely dry and cure. I left them overnight just to make sure that that drywall mud was fully set up and fully cured. So now, step 5, we get to paint.
When I first started thinking about how I wanted the palette to look on these birdhouses, my original thought was to do 3 different colors that really worked well together and played well together and enhanced each other. So I chose a palette that was fairly soft and a little bit muted. I will link the colors that I used on my birdhouses in the description box for y'all, and I'm just using some folk art craft paint to do this. So this first color that I'm starting out with is really kind of a nice soft green color, and I really like this. This is actually Folk Art's terracotta brand paint, their terracotta line, and I like it because the paint itself has a teeny tiny little bit of texture in it, which just really kind of helped enhance the texture that we got from the drywall mud. So, you know, this is just a very straightforward step here. I'm just painting each and every one of the birdhouses, getting a full coat of paint on all of them. I do paint each one a different color and did do 2 coats of paint on each birdhouse. The second color that I'm using here is just this really pretty cool gray color. I really liked how well this color plays with the green of our first birdhouse. I think one thing to keep in mind when you're working with a color palette and you're using multiple colors is to try to choose colors that are all similar in the hue. Like they all choose cool colors or warm colors, or all play well together and work off of each other using that same hue. So this color I chose is kind of a peachy pink color, and here I'm really second guessing my color choice for this third birdhouse. I don't really like it, but I wanted to go ahead and paint the whole thing just to see how it was going to look, and in the end I do not like it at all, so I end up changing the color. Something else I really like to do when I'm working with a color palette, when I'm working with multiple colors, is to have a little bit of contrast. And I felt like with this really pretty peachy pink, we were lacking contrast. So I did end up changing it out for this really deep, rich, moody blue color. I love the contrast that it created. In the end, I definitely liked this color palette so much better. Although that really pretty pinky peach color was beautiful, but I do like the blue a little bit better.
Okay, y'all. So I'm not sure if at this point I should throw these in the trash or if I should move on to step 6 and actually see these things through. I think that's what I'm going to do, because I'm actually not one to ever give up on a project, and I'm always trying to just trust the process and see it through to the end. So we're going to move on to step 6, which is putting a little bit of embellishment to our birdhouses, and then we'll get them sealed.
Okay, y'all, so I can honestly say at this point I was really questioning what the heck I have done here. These things were just not looking at all like I envisioned them to look. I think when I originally designed them, I wanted something that looked a little bit more upscale and a little bit more classy. But as I started putting these together and up to this point, I started telling myself these don't look anything like what I originally set out to create. They look more whimsical and folk artsy. So, but I don't want to give up on the project, so I'm going to keep going with it. So to keep with that folk artsy theme, I decided we needed to add some embellishments to these. So I have just come in and I am painting on some doors and some windows. I'm just using some black paint and a really fine round tip liner brush to do this, and I'm freehanding it, y'all. I really was. I mean, we're going folk artsy here, so if we're gonna do it, let's do it all the way. So I am just freehanding these because with that folk artsy style, everything is very playful and it's very whimsical and nothing is perfect. So I think if you want to go with that folk artsy theme, freehand your things. Don't try to draw them on perfectly and just go with it and have fun and enjoy the entire process. So that's what I'm doing here, drawing on some doors, a window. I only draw one window on each house and just had fun. I kind of just started playing because at this point I felt like I really can't mess this up any worse. At this point, I've decided to embrace the full-on folk artsy style. So I thought we better add some more embellishments to this. So let's do some fun things on the roofs of each of these houses. So for this very first one, I am just simply drawing on some lines. I have continued the black from our door and windows into this same process, the same step, using my black paint with a liner brush and just having fun with this. Again, that folk artsy style is nothing about folk artsy style is precise and perfect. So I'm not trying to be careful at getting my lines perfectly spaced out or perfectly straight or any of that. I'm literally just having fun with this and full on embracing this style. And on this birdhouse, I'm just coming in and creating some little blobs that sort of resemble shingles. Again, not trying to be precise. And this part was particularly fun for me because I actually got to embrace a little bit of that messy side of myself. So I had fun just splattering these little faux shingles all over the top of this birdhouse. And on our cute little blue one, I did lines, only this time I did it in more of a plaid style. And because we have gone full-on folk artsy with these birdhouses, albeit unintentionally, I decided to seal them with a very high gloss sealer. This is one of my favorite sealers. I will have it listed in the supply list for y'all. I like it because it does have a shorter dry time than some of the other ones, like some of the lacquers and polyurethanes. They take a little bit longer to dry. This one has a much faster dry time. It is a very thick medium though, so you want to be really careful not to glob it on. I feel like the trick to this is to get a nice even thin layer across it because it is so thick. If you get it on too thick, it's going to take a lot longer to dry, but it also will tend to look globby rather than just giving you that nice glossy finish. I do really like about this particular sealer is if you are impatient, like I tend to be, you can speed up the dry time with your heat tool on this, and it works perfectly. You just want to be really careful not to get your heat tool too close to the surface, otherwise it can cause this product to bubble up and melt almost and give you a very unattractive finish.
I can't stop laughing at these birdhouses. I am really feeling like these could be the ugliest thing I've ever made. But we're not going to give up just yet on these. We're going to move on to step 8, and that is adding our floral stems and styling.
In my original design, I intended for these birdhouses to act as a vase of sorts. So if you've been wondering all this time why there's a hole in the roof, this is exactly why. So now I'm going to go ahead and just add some floral pieces to these. I feel like they turned out really good. I think the glossy sealer was a perfect touch to add to these because it really lends a lot to that folk artsy style. So for the bigger one, I'm adding in just this bundle of really wispy greenery, and then on the other two, just some more minimalistic stems of sorts. I'd add just a tulip, a little orb, it's supposed to be like a dandelion. I think this is supposed to mimic a dandelion. I'm not exactly sure what this faux orb flower is supposed to be, but to me it kind of looks like a dandelion. So I really love them. And then on the smallest one, I think I just add in 2 stems of greenery, and that finishes these off, y'all. So even though my original design doesn't look exactly like I intended it to do or intended it to look, they're still kind of cute, they're fun, they're playful, they're whimsical, and they definitely have that folk artsy style to them.
Okay, y'all, so step 9 is to promptly throw these in the trash. I don't know what went wrong here, y'all. You know, sometimes designs just don't work out, but I really did have hope for these, and I had really hoped that by the time we got to the very end, I was going to like them. I don't know. Y'all are going to have to give me your thoughts and your opinions on these, because I'm starting to feel like they're so ugly that they're kind of cute. They very much have that whimsical, folk arty look to them. And so I don't know if I hate them, but I definitely don't love them. What do y'all think? Okay, friends, well, you know, it's not the greatest thing I've ever created, but that is okay. Not all is lost. I do have a really good idea on how we can salvage this design. So next week, we're going to jump into attempt number 2 on our cute little birdhouse vases. I have a way better idea, and I think they're gonna look so much more grown up and sophisticated. Plus, I've got a couple more projects to share with y'all too that are going to be so much fun. So y'all, you're going to have to come back and see me again next week. I appreciate y'all being here today and sticking with me through to the end. You know, I really debated on whether or not I even wanted to share this with y'all, but then I decided why not? Not everything I do turns out perfectly or exactly the way I envisioned it. And some of you out there might even really love these birdhouses. And if you do, let me know. I might just send them to you. So that's why I decided to go ahead and share it, because, you know, it's okay for me to share my not so good projects with you because it just keeps things real. We're just keeping it real around here. So that's going to wrap it up. That's going to wrap up this week's episode. Next week's going to be so much fun though. So y'all, please come back and see me again next week. Don't give up on me. I promise next week's projects are going to be amazing and y'all are going to love them. So come back, see me again next week. Until then, y'all take care and I will see you soon. Bye-bye, friends. Boy, do I have a story for y'all. There is a really good idea behind this. Just scribble out. No. Do you want outside? Written up, sketched up, designed, not written up, sketched up. Okay, no, hold on. Into step 3. 4 pieces if anything, we're gonna have a lot of really good laughs.